Thank you for joining me today on The Entertainment Room, where we have a story consisting of pretentious characters of evaporating importance, marinated in their own misery and insecurities, infused with a whole lot of bullshit about to be exposed. So, welcome to my review of the 2022 film The Menu by Mark Mylod, and starring Ralph Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Nicholas Hoult. After failing to defeat a school of teenage wizards, Lord Voldemort is reincarnated and catches a whiff of a seemingly more desirable career to slowly become unhinged in. But seriously, a group of uppity, wealthy people travel by boat to an exclusive resort on an island run by Chef Slowik, and he has, to say the least, the most unconventional menu prepared for them. It took me way too long to see this film. Is this film in danger of becoming pretentious art house? It's possible, but the exciting premise with some promising star power made it way too curious to resist any longer. A movie with some horrendous individuals with dogshit morals being served a nightmare of an evening. Let me have it now. So let's get into my review. The menu, if nothing else, is bound to draw you in with its mystery, and oftentimes its absurdity. Anya Taylor-Joy plays Margot, who is probably the least invested in all of the culinary snobbiness. She's just there as a plus one with Tyler, who is played by Nicholas Hoult, and they are surrounded by a bunch of other wealthy individuals who are just insufferable with their opinions and their feelings of self-importance, some worse than others. Think of some of the worst customer types you may have had to deal with, if you worked in the food or service industry in particular. And you're bound to pick out a few familiar quotes and personality types, no matter what type of food you worked in. And even if you haven't worked in the industry, you've likely heard plenty of stories from friends, family, social media, all the above. And you realize this over-the-top film comes with some still very realistic interactions. The story that unfolds may or may not land for you in a satisfactory way in the end, but you're most likely not going to know what's coming next. It's a very unpredictable film, and Ralph Fiennes is an incredible actor who has a particular knack for portraying these unnerving and obsessive villains. This time is no exception with the mysterious and stern Chef Slowik, as he is followed by his unnaturally focused and loyal staff. The evening carefully and suspensefully unfolds, and it is unclear exactly why things are happening and what the end goal is. There is one story element I won't reveal until spoilers, but it is a twist, kind of, I guess, that is kind of unveiled fairly early on, maybe about halfway through. And it seems with several viewers it ruined part of the surprise, I guess. For me personally, I would not say it ruins it overall. It may have been better to keep it under wraps longer, but I thought there was still plenty of mystery and fun to be had, despite this. But I'll go into that in a little bit. Another issue some may have had is the characters. Not only is there close to no one you may root for, arguably even nobody at all, and there are decisions that are made also, or just like a general lack of reaction to certain news or certain events that play out, that may be kind of off-putting to people. There are things that happen that maybe should have caused more of a panic in the characters. And with a lot of these art house films, that can be a common theme. The main focus is to drive a point home, or to have a message or a theme presented in a metaphorical and oftentimes exaggerated manner. And with a lot of characters in these movies, they don't often act in a realistic manner, and that can really bother a lot of people who want a more straightforward approach. And while I like how the menu handles its subject matter and flow, I can see how bizarre or unrealistic characters can kind of make the scenario feel less suspenseful or unsettling, particularly when you're trying to watch what is, at least in part, a horror film. But for me, if the story is good and entertaining, I really don't need a completely linear story or chain of events, linear, realistic character reactions and logic. If the film handles its point well and gives me enough to latch on to, it still makes for a really stellar project. Maybe on another day I can explain all that better, but basically, you're either going to be annoyed by the reactions of the characters, and also with this big reveal nearly halfway through, or you embrace it. For me, I don't really have many complaints about it. I liked how they handled their characters and the story, and the pace overall. On the other hand, though, in all of the farcicality, you do kind of miss out on what could have been a much darker and brutal tone with more suspense, and something maybe a little bit more at stake. Not that the story isn't dark and twisted already. It's just not going to be what a lot of viewers expect, especially with it being, in part, a horror film. This film is intentionally pretty funny a good bit of the way through. Villains are bad, yes, but at the same time are just so damn silly and over the top. And I really love when this humor works. Certain aspects to me were reminiscent to the oddball nature of films such as, The Killing of the Sacred Deer, The Lobster, Mother. Not saying those are all great or even good projects. Those are just some examples of what I mean when I mention these bizarre characters. Batshit cartoonish content like this are often attractive to me, although in some cases, including at least a couple moments here, there were just some sequences that could have been so incredible with the intensity and the suspense, but it could never fully get there. One time one of these events was going on, I was more invested in a conversation that was happening in another room at the exact same time. I just found that more interesting than what should have been a really cool, intense chase scene. With all that said, I don't think this film overall gets too goofy for its own good, necessarily. The story's again still plenty dark. Chef Slowik and his employees are unpredictable as hell. Hung Chow, who plays Elsa, the main hostess, gives a standout performance with her chillingly reserved and haunting presence. I will go into spoilers now. Hopefully I haven't said too much. I've tried to keep my notes as vague as possible up to this point, but the menu is absolutely fucking bonkers in a lot of fantastic ways. The satire is brilliant overall. The ending is different for sure, but I did enjoy it and what it signified. Such a fun watch, but now, on to spoilers. Pretty much touched on this already, but my favorite aspect of the menu was really watching all these different characters interact. To a certain extent, they are exaggerated, but they definitely have characteristics and personality traits that are familiar to probably most, if not all of us. Especially with fine dining, the fucking critics. Lillian Bloom is one of the most irritating critics here, whether she enjoyed the food and the presentation or not. It really did make a difference. The pretentiousness is suffocating from her description of the island as this biome, or insulting the snow presentation on one of the first dishes. Although a touch I did love, that was very smartass of the kitchen staff, where they just kind of clapped back at her remarks, was one time she insulted some kind of broken emulsion in a dish. And her confusion, numerous random points throughout the movie, they kept bringing her more bonus dishes with broken emulsion, essentially just mocking her, which was just awesome. But with her personality, what was more irritating was her insufferable, date, assistant, friend, partner, pet, wherever the fuck that guy was supposed to be, besides her hype man. But arguably the worst character to me may be Tyler by the end of it, in his unfailing dick riding and kiss-assery. Always overjoyed with the chef's food and story that went along with it, He's upset if he thinks the chef is upset with him, like a whipped fucking puppy, and he's completely devoid of fucks to give at any of the deaths or any of the chaos going on around him. You even get the group of younger business guys who are the "do you know who we are" type. And that's an actual quote, by the way. But still, Tyler has got to be the worst to me. That's up for debate for everybody else. But you get on this island with this fancy restaurant, and it is absolutely stunning to look at. And it's also at the same time very unsettling straight off the bat. It also was the perfect one to really set the tone with her cold, almost empty expression and her extended pauses between responses. And she also is very blunt when they ask her a question. With the food and the presentation, I actually really enjoy the Food Channel like title cards and close up shots of the food, like you're watching an actual cooking show. The food itself was actually a really cool design, although, of course, and this was intentional, it looks entirely unedible most of the time. My favorite actually has to be the tacos with the art on the tortillas, representing a photo of their biggest secrets or their biggest sins. It's just like such an unexpected oh shit moment that kind of really got me excited for the drama to follow. Also was invested in the tension between Margot and Chef Slowik as he desperately tries to kind of figure her out and what she's not liking about the evening and the food. She's just that character that probably kind of represents a lot of audience members, where she's just confused by people's enjoyment of this kind of stuff and really just calls bullshit on all of it fairly often. And it's just great conversation between two great actors giving stellar performances. But I think my favorite moment is when Chef pretends to finally accept Tyler and even makes him a cook due to his knowledge. And again, he makes him a cook on the spot in front of everybody while they watch and learn him completely shit the bucket and make a terrible dish. And Chef simply calls the dish bad, leading to probably my favorite transition in the whole film. We get a close-up and a title card of the dish, and it is called Tyler's Bullshit. A double meaning, I'm sure. It's just kind of the perfect way to exploit a shitty character. Maybe Tyler's exact demise. I don't necessarily agree with that. But the humiliation, absolutely. With a potential negative, the part that is revealed probably about halfway through is that the end goal of the evening is for everybody to die after the final course. They are very blunt and clear about this, the chef and his staff. My only thing is I feel like many people watching probably would have seen this outcome coming. I can see people's frustrations with it being revealed early, but I don't really share these frustrations of the timing of it. There's still plenty to enjoy and figure out, such as, a possible escape, plus still why all this is happening in the first place. Things were getting so brutal and personal, the reveal just doesn't come as a shock really, anyway. Plus it was entertaining to watch different people's reactions to this, realistic or not, and notice how they have limited options for escaping the island, with no good boat nearby. Plus you kind of had everybody still, kind of in a group state of confusion, where they're wondering if this is all part of a show, or part of the menu. I guess it could technically be theatrics, but things started to get more ominous along the way. It also created some uncomfortable tension and made the staff more terrifying, as they were seemingly just fine with all of this and knew what was coming. I guess they could have rallied together to fight harder, that is true, I guess, and kind of find their way, and the chef even questions at one point why they don't fight more. But I guess when you get this really shocking news and no one's quick to react, I guess people just don't have the quickest reaction. Be able to develop your own opinion about that. I just don't think that's an aspect that really bothered me, as it wasn't something I thought about while watching it. It was just some things that I read after the fact. And again, with the complaints about the lack of realism with these reactions, I again don't always need this linear and realistic narrative if the story is still good and the purpose is being served. I like ridiculous films like these with characters that are mostly just there to represent like an idea or an aspect, in this case, a terrible aspect about people and about our society. The chase scene I kind of referenced earlier, again, wasn't very intense like I thought it might be, but it was kind of made to be kind of comical. All the men getting 45 seconds of a head start to try and escape. And also, I love how the only one to hesitate running off was Tyler, but not because he wanted to, stick with Margot and protect her, but because he wanted to be so close to Chef Slowik. And one moment I literally laughed out loud at was an exchange between a staff member and the last man to be caught. For his reward for being the last one to be caught, he is not grabbed right away like the other men were, but he is giving a bonus dish as a reward. He was hiding in the chicken coop, and instead of being, again, grabbed instantly, the cook kind of opens his little door and hands him the dish, serving it to him and explaining what it is, and then casually just closes the door back and gives him time to eat in peace before making him return. Margot, as our main protagonist, I guess, gets more interesting as the plot progresses. I liked the increased tension of her being the unexpected guest of the evening, as Tyler had planned to bring somebody else originally. Her conversations with the chef were always easy to become invested in. The subtle bits of confusion on the chef's hardened face added some additional comedy as well as anticipation. I enjoyed the theme with, how us in society, a lot of us just have this desire to do things just to impress others who shouldn't matter to us, to the point where you not only fail to gain more of their respect, but also you lose the love you have for your passion along the way. In this case, Chef Slowik with cooking and being a chef. We have this pressure to perform, and we try and impress those who are just simply there to make us feel like shit no matter what. And Chef Slowik shares that insecurity even on the night he is seemingly the most in control of the people and the environment. He claps back at this idea at one point with the movie star character played by John Leguizamo. He cites the movie star's reason for being here and for being punished was because the chef has one day off a week on Sunday, and he spent this one day off watching a film by this movie star, and it was bad. He spent his limited free time to watch a film that turned out to not be enjoyable to him, and so he invites him here to die. Incredibly petty, but that's really, again, a point he was trying to make about his own insecurity. The ending exchange between Chef and Margot is brilliant. I love that part of the ending. She had kind of snooped around and discovered some things about his past. She discovered the start of his career was him being a fry cook, and she uses this to her advantage. When they talked before, one of the times he had previously mentioned that he used to enjoy what he did for a living, but essentially people ruined it for him. And so ultimately she brings him back to those days by refusing any more dishes or courses that were planned for the night, and requests a burger and fries, to which he actually obliges. We get an interesting little montage of him cooking the burger, and at one point we even see a small smile appear on his face as he works. You kind of get that in the past, those were simpler times, but times that made him enjoy what he did. So we kind of get an expression from him of kind of joy, the last little bit he can have left. And goddamn, that burger is fucking glorious. I want that burger that he made. As a true culinary professional would say, or would word it. But back on track, Margot eats some and compliments his work. No backhanded compliments or complaints, and even requests it to go so she can enjoy it later. And yeah, she is our one survivor because of this, for giving him something he probably hasn't gotten in years. Some sort of enjoyment for some work he's done in the kitchen. And her exit and her reasoning is probably one of the few times it would be preferred to skip dessert. And I will never fucking look at s'mores the same way ever again. And I think that's about all I have to say about what follows. But in the end, the menu has its shortcomings in places, And it may not be your traditional horror formula, if that's what you're looking for, but it is incredibly clever. Of course, and themes along the way are a bit on the nose, but nothing really eye-rolling in my opinion. I love watching shitty people get their just desserts, after we're giving ample time to hate them more and more. And despite all the satire, the staff again is wonderfully psychotic and unpredictable. The man's folly dish will never leave my fucking memory whenever I think about this movie. As a man especially, probably the most disturbing dish. But anyways, I'll give the menu a 7.8 out of 10. And thanks so much for listening. I hope this review was enjoyable and that you enjoyed the menu if you've seen it. Let me know your thoughts. Follow me on social media if you like. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Facebook, X. Give me a follow on Spotify as well if you'd like to hear more. And I'll see you next time on The Entertainment Room.